stop. Even when this lockdown finishes, don't open yourself. Look deep within, introspect, question. And this whole idea of education has to be questioned because it's a disaster. Education is not something you give like a backpack to children.
This is an interesting question. What's wrong in being lost?
Hi friends, all you lovely people out there. My name is Gunjan Sethi and I'll be talking to my friend, my teacher, my mentor, Alok Ulfat. Let me tell you a little bit more about him before we go further. He's been a seeker all his life. He's been a very curious observer, strong creator. He's been seeing possibilities of life, of art and relationship in almost everything that he touches and explores. He's been taking workshops with children, with youth, with adults, with teachers, with corporate people all around the world, in organizations, in corporate spaces, in schools, in learning centers, and so on. So this list goes on very long. The credentials are heavy, and let us not load this show with that. So this is Alok for you.
Ji.
Namaskar. Let's begin by finding out what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing, where you're going in your life.
Okay, just the practical side. So we're going to stick to about like 20 minutes to do this.
Yeah.
So you want to put all that in 20 minutes? Good luck.
Yes.
But,
let's try that.
I want to start
please.
off with I haven't worked around the world. I worked in Canada and in Europe and in Southeast Asia a little bit. I've traveled in the Middle East and worked in India, which is a world in itself. I mean, every city is a world in itself.
Sure.
In India, you walk a little bit and everything changes. The cuisine changes, the people changes, the culture changes. Even I live in here in Mumbai, and I go to a couple of blocks, and this is a Gujarati block. Then there is a Maharashtrian block. Then these are the only Muslims live here. The only Christians live here. So there is this diversity, and but more and more, this diversity is changing. I mean, it's not first people who are kind of living together, but it's more and more getting tribal. So we're not going to go there because that takes us to somewhere else. But let's start with your first question. What was your first question?
So where are you going with this?
Are you saying what are my engagements?
Yes.
What is keeping me engaged, right?
Yes.
Okay. So of course, life, people, and I work with people because primarily I'm a teacher and also a student because I'm a teacher. I work with very small children. I work with slightly older children. Then I work with schools. Then I work with college students. I work with aspiring actors, artists, writers, directors, sound recordists, all the people, all kinds of people who are involved in media. And I also work with sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes with people who are working with big companies and corporates. So
what do you do? What do you do with them?
I do workshops, and these workshops are called Inside Out, Hold the Moment, Finding Your Indivisible Self, Eye Opener, not this eye, but the eye self, Eye Opener. And these are some of the names of the workshop, and this list is long. And this, of course, for actors, fearless actors, Hold the Moment. These are the names of the workshop, and each workshop has its own focus. So, for example, Inside Out is about discovering that which is deep within you. And instead of looking out, you look within. So you're just turning this finger in the same way you look in.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we are always looking out, and we're learning from outside, and we think outside there is somebody who can tell us what is right for us, which I think comes from lot of bad schooling, because the teacher knows the best and the parents know the best, and parents know the best because the pandit tells them that's the best, and or the mullah tells them that's the best. Then it's your book which tells you the best. Then it's your clan, it's your tribe, and in the end, who are you? You are just a collection of ideas of all over which has been given to you, from all over which is given to you, and you think that bundle of thoughts is you. So
Then what are we?
I deem it.
Without them, we'll be lost. Without them, without the thoughts, without these ideas, people will be lost. Then what are they? What is a human being? What is
What's
an
wrong? What's
individual?
wrong? What's wrong for if you're lost? What's wrong for being lost? There's nothing wrong with being lost. What have we found?
Hmm.
So my question, these are, anyways, this is an interesting question. So these are the questions which arise in my workshop. And
Sure.
like a sunshine, it's arising. It's not just rising, but arising. And I love these questions. And they surprise me so many times. And I don't have the answers, but I make more
So
questions.
just quickly sum this up and tell me what is it that you are uh, trying to achieve or trying to create through these workshops for the people who come to your workshop.
I can only speak for myself. I mean, I like working with
Yeah.
people and I like to work with their questions. I like to work with their anxieties and I like to help them find their true self. So that's
Hmm.
this is what I take home. And of course, there is this need of existing on this planet. And the physical needs are taken care of through these workshops. More than that, I think we are finding many new things. I mean, it's been like 30 years. I've found so many new things. We have not articulated it yet. We have not understood everything, but there are certain things we've really understood, that 99% of us lives inside. There's only 1% which is visible. That's this physical self, which you see
That's
outside.
interesting.
Yeah. But then I'm also engaged with people who are doing artistic work, people who are working on the land, organic
Hmm.
farming, and
Hmm.
that kind of stuff, working with communities, working with people with special needs, um, working with physically, emotionally, psychologically challenged people. I'm working with schools. So this is my area of working. And that's what keeps me engaged. And more than that, I love cooking, and I love doing something in my little flat, and also traveling a lot. I like traveling, and I have lots of amazing friends who work with me. And I like to work in Dehradun very much because that's where I'm from. So I'm between Dehradun and Mumbai. I'm shunting. And in Dehradun, we built a cultural center. We want to make a bigger cultural center. And I'm working with Nanni Dunya International Movement for Children and Their Friends, which was founded by my father. So we have got 1,200 children going to 9 schools. And a couple of schools are working with inclusive education. So that's what I do.
Very nice. So what is it? What is this inclusive education? People talk about it a lot. What does it do to people? What does it
Inclusive
do to
education
individuals?
is that, so-called gifted people, uh, not like
Yeah.
you and me, not like you and me, but I mean, there are
Yeah.
very many gifted people,
We're way less gifted.
yeah, and those who are differently gifted, not less
Yeah.
gifted, but differently gifted,
Sure.
and otherly
Yeah.
able.
Yeah.
They get a chance to be together in the same classroom. So they learn
Yeah.
to not just exist, but coexist. And together with
Hmm.
each other, they discover their own potentials, and they have a great time.
Hmm.
So these are these
So do you think?
Nanni Dunya schools. That's what Nanni Dunya schools do.
So do you think there is this is an approach that is there in the world? You were earlier talking about diversity and it's kind of getting lost. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by this all inclusive? And is it there in the world? Are people
I think
driven
the world
towards it?
is
Or
diverse. It's
yeah.
human who decided and segregated. The blinds go in one place, the deaf go in one place, and so-called privileged go in one place. The poor in the slums, and the rich, and so on. The urban area, the elite area, and we've made these divisions because it's like we this tribal thinking. And then this finally leads to the Hindus and the Muslims and the Christians and the Parsis and this, and then the wars in Israel and Palestine, the Pakistan, India, and so on. I mean, this is not right. So what we should do is recognize people who are working with diversity. So
Hmm.
in some schools now they have started opening up doors for the special needs to go into the mainstream school. Of course, they have special needs.
Very interesting.
And if the special needs, they have special classes. But there are lots of things they can do together. They can play together. They can paint together. They can do all the artwork together. They can sit in a music class. They might be a little disturbing because they keep moving, or they're destructive and all that. Somebody has to sit with them. So to bring them into the mainstream. And also there could be schools within a school where the special needs have because they cannot handle too many people sometimes. So they can have a school of their own, and then they can go and merge with the bigger classes, or with the kids with the competitive learning processes, and they can go there and come back. So it is that in general consciousness there has to be that these children, the other kind of children, are part of our mainstream. And how sane are we? I mean, I keep forgetting things, and I keep not keeping track, and I lose my temper, and I get emotionally down. I mean, I have my disabilities are not visible, and these kids, at least what you call disability is visible. So because it's visible, it is not a disability, it's a different ability. So this whole idea of assessing children because of their abilities is a wrong idea. You higher marks and lower marks and all that.
No, but with this, you've actually touched upon a very important subject, which is education, our education systems.
Right.
So, yeah, what is according to you, what is education supposed to do in a human's life, in an individual's life, and in the world? What are we supposed to achieve from education?
So you said three things. You asked a question about education. You talked about individual, and you talked about the world. Now, between the individual and the world is the individual and the world is education. And I mean, who taught you to walk? You just walked. Then when you were a little baby, you were making so much effort. When the child is born, is kept on is kept on his head, and he's constantly moving and moving and moving and forcing itself, that eventually it turns around. It's a miracle. A child who's been on his back suddenly turns around, lifts his head and says, "Here am I." And this "here am I" is his first experience that I exist as an individual. That's what you asked. What about the individual? The individual word.
Here I am,
Yeah, this individual word comes from indivisible, that which cannot be broken down. And then you take this individual who made so much effort to come to the school. A little baby horse gets up as soon as they're born. A lot of animals are born and they stand on their feet within the first 12 hours. Humans take almost a year to move and to become independent. Months. And it takes longer than to become independent and so on. And now this child, after 3 years of struggle, has already taught itself to walk, to talk, to ask questions, to look and to stare and wonder. And in that whole amazement and wonderful state, it arrives in the school. And what do? Rain, rain, go away, little Johnny wants to play. This is an English song. It doesn't work for India. We love rain. We say, Barso.
I agree. I so agree.
So we have in India a different need for children. And not only that, as a teacher, we must understand that each individual has a different need. So that's one. Second thing is, how does this individual go and join the world later
Connect
on,
to the
merge
world.
into the world? But if it's always kept away from the world, it will not fit into the world, because you're not a machine part that you go fit into the world. You are a world in itself.
It's more the connection. It's more the connection with the world than fitting into it. This is what you're trying to say. That the connecting with the world.
No, connecting is again segregating. You are the
Yeah.
world. Let's stick to what we started with. Your question has not been answered. First thing was the individual has to be seen as a whole, not as a division,
Right.
not as a part of the universe, but it is the universe.
Sure.
Education is not something you give like a backpack to children, but education should facilitate child's inquiry,
Very
provide
interesting.
possibilities for developing its own skills and interests, and
Right.
with love and warmth and imagination and compassion, allow the child to move on to other things in the world. So that's what school is for me. And education should be like this. Anything that does not move is not education. You start using the word, how do you inspire to go in and inspire to go out?
No, actually, the question is different. What I'm asking is it appropriate to say that anything? So education is not supposed to sort of put you back into your head and into your thoughts, but needs to get you out of it and gets you engaged with the world, with your surroundings, with the current circumstances that are happening.
The word
Tricky ones.
education says to bring something out of you. In Hindi, we say prakat hona, and to manifest what is already there, to kind of flower. It's flourishing, it's flowering of your inner being. And how do you know, when children are some children in schools, they come locked, you know, because something strange must have happened in the family, something weird must have happened on that day, and they cannot focus because of that. You have, as a teacher, you understand. You say, are you hungry? Have you slept well last night? You take interest in this individual. And he says, no, my grandmother died last year, and today my mother cried too much. So this is what I'm saying by recognizing the individual. And as a teacher, you did not push something out or push something in. You just gave attention to the child, and the child started opening up. And in that opening up of the child and opening of the teacher, something opened up in the classroom. So you might talk about death. Why are you doing mathematics when there is a child experiencing death? This is where it goes wrong. Segregation, this locking up of the classrooms, when they say, no, we are just doing mathematics now, we're not talking about death. That's not how it's done.
Yeah, but this is very nice.
So if you feel like burping, you're not going to say, oh, we cannot burp right now because it's uncultured. You burp softly. You walk away and burp if you don't want other people to vomit around you. But if you feel like throwing up, you throw up. And the school should give license and freedom and openness and kindness and compassion and empathy so that children can express themselves like that. And then the class stops. And the math can go and take a hike. Because the biggest mathematics is to understand that ek aadmi meri zindagi se kam ho gaya. I've lost one person. And what is this person which made my mother cry so much? And it is same for her, that person. It's same for me, my mother. My mother is same for me, sorry. This understanding. So what are we learning here? Mathematics. What are we learning? Relationship. Relationship of numbers is mathematics. Out of 10, you minus 1, there is only 9. The grandmother is gone. Now there are only 6 members in the family. It is mathematics, but we have segregated everything. Whatever is going in our subconscious, in unconscious, in a memory, and some teacher might say, oh, well, then every child has something going on in their head. What should we do? Yes, you do that head first. You do those feelings first, and the subjects can wait. And you have to help children to really find questions. And then you can also say that, can you hold on to this moment of feeling so down right now? If we do a little bit more of the lesson, and then maybe last 10 minutes, we can talk about your grandmother. Then there is a negotiation. there is an understanding between you and the child. So anyhow, I mean, that's what I think. That's what I'm thinking. That
Yeah, this is
education for the
quite, this is a
individual. Hmm.
education for the individual. We take it from there. This is a very vast subject, and this requires in itself a few sessions like this. But let's move on from there. So this is what you're talking about, the exploration of the individual. So you must have been very sort of inspired and looking up to a lot of different people in the world who are already doing this kind of thing and
Yeah.
exploring from this point of view. Not everyone, I'm saying, but there are quite a few people, and there may have been quite a few people in the past, in your growing up life, when you were a child or becoming a youth. So talk about that. Talk about your inspirations. Talk about people
Are
who
you trying
changed
to
your life.
talk about people who made an impact on me?
Impact on you, and you saw them making an impact in general as well.
Of course, my parents were educationists, and they were not only educationists, they were people, they're seekers, they were saints, they were working with all kinds of things. They spent all their life serving the poor. They didn't like the word poor, so economically deprived, as they would say. They're working with special needs, and they were working with anybody who needed help. And so obviously they were also inspired by someone. So people like Rabindranath Tagore, Krishnamurti, Shri Aurobindo, Mahatma Gandhi, and anybody in that light was kind of part of our breakfast table, and also dinner tables, because that's the time when we really met. And my parents were also inspired by very simple people, people like our gardener, a tailor, or a special shopkeeper, and they were spoken in our house with equal honor as these bigwigs, as the Nobel Prize laureates, and so on. And so we saw that, and such people came to our homes. People from all the names I've given, their first students have come to my parents' organization, which is called, they didn't even like the word organization, they called it movement, Nanni Dunya. And Nanni Dunya basically literally translated means the little world. So yeah, and so I mean, for India it's okay, but I'm sure my friends are going to see this abroad as well, and your friends. So that's okay. So
Sure.
this was one thing, and then from there, obviously, because I got very inspired by theater activists and theater practitioners. So Habib Tanveer and Ratan Thayam and many more people like this who were working around in Mandi House, and I used to go quite a lot to Mandi House. And Baba Karan bolte the unhe, BV Karan, and I was very inspired by these people. The way they also, lot of teachers who handled National Schools of Drama, I really liked them because I taught there for a year. And then a lot of my friends abroad, a lot of my teachers abroad, and I was trained as a Waldorf teacher. And Prince Rudolf Steiner was an Austrian philosopher, thinker, seer. He also was seen as an initiate and scientist in many ways. And he developed this whole idea of I wouldn't even say idea. It's a movement in itself called anthroposophy.
Yeah.
And then from there, they arrived to a lot of other things, in activities in agriculture, in art, in education, in alternative medicine. So they did that. So I was very inspired by them, and because I was a teacher, I did 3 years training in England at Emerson College, and I taught at the Michael Hall School, and I worked in their hostel, and so I had a long time in Forest Row in Sussex, many years. And then I was also very, 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 I mean, I still am. I call him my guru, my teacher, my mentor, somebody who's inspired me for years and years, and Satish Kumar, who lives in Dartington, I mean, in Devon. And he's been working at the Schumacher College, and he's also an editor of Resurgence magazine. So I've been very inspired by him. And I've been inspired by another friend who lives in Thailand. His name is Hans van Willenswerd, and his wife Wallapa Willenswerd. So these are the people who have contributed in constructing our local thought processes. But I also, because of them, I bounced onto a lot of new things, and which they probably might not know about it because there's some other people and communities, initiatives, people involved in cinema, and people involved in alternative medicine, agriculture, education. So there's so many people. I mean, but I think the most of the time when I really came to some deep realization is when I meet the labor class, people who work with their hands, people who work. I've observed them, I sat with them, I've learned the technique, I built a home myself, entire house I've built. I've been maintaining Nani Dunya, I've been painting walls, fixing things. There is a road called Raja Road in Dehradun, which I know, like I know myself, because I know where you buy your tools from, where you buy nuts and bolts, and where you buy your glue and tape and stuff like that. So those are the people who construct. I think these are the people who create the world. And then when I look at the construction site, and I say, nowadays when I see them, I said, they're so inhuman. There is no connection.
Inhuman.
Absolutely. We are living in boxes. You know, the whole idea of putting people in our boxes was, it comes from the corporations. They want people were scattered, they lived all over the place, and because there were spaces between people, there was space for nature. There was space for plants. There was space for animals. There was space for birds. And they reduced that and they put one building next to another building, and everything else from in between, which was life, has been taken away. So life now is on the screen, like you and me sitting on the screen because this corona shit. And it's very painful. And so these people who I say that build the world are birds and animals and trees, and the breath between people and the trees. Now you have to wear a mask, and it's such a pity that that we have been taken away from real life. These people who I'm saying, if we was inspired by the names I've given you, we wouldn't have been in the state we are in now.
So now that you mentioned so many people, actually there is an individual session again we can spend with everyone, with your experiences with everyone. And there's so many questions arising from what you're saying already. So long way to go. Moving on to, now that you mentioned Corona, the COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic, it has been taking wits out of the people. What do you think about it? What is happening? What is happening around you? What is happening to you? What is happening to people you know? How are they coping up with this? How are they seeing the future? How do you see the future? So in general, what is the way forward after this?
I mean, I think the first thing which shocked me is that this suddenly happened. And I'm sure it shocked everybody else. But what shocks me is that there are people behind the scene. The people who are working, constructing these things. Maybe this virus wasn't constructed, but if it was, then what kind of education is this? So if it was created, then this means this is the third world war happening right now.
One observation I found out was that China made sure that this disease doesn't go out of Wuhan into any other cities of China. They did have the intention, and that they made sure that this intention gets exercised. And it didn't go to Shanghai, it didn't go to Beijing, but it went out of China and went to the whole world. How did that happen? Mystery. Why couldn't they do
mystery?
So these are the questions.
I haven't got an idea. I'm just generally talking about two things. One, if it is something that leaked out of a lab, why was this being created? A. Second, if they didn't do it, and if people are eating snakes and bats and things like that, it's horrific. This whole industrial farming of animals, industrial agriculture, industrial development, treating human resource as components of factories. We are just machine parts. We are just units of exploitation. We are fuels. As long as we burn, the economy goes on. When we create such a narrow idea of development, such a selfish idea of development, deaths will happen. Heaps and heaps of people in plastic bags I've been watching on television. And it looks like it's normal. And all these presidents and prime ministers, they look helpless, pretending as if everything is okay. But my brothers and sisters, it's not okay. It's not okay. So first thing is that we actually forgot what death was. We are so rushing away all the time from one stage to the other, constantly. We don't notice anything. We see everything, we notice nothing. Listening and hearing, two different things. And carefully listening and carefully hearing is even better. But we forgot to listen to things in totality, to see things in totality. You know, this whole initiative of mindfulness, heartfulness, soulfulness. Because you become ambitious, you become vicious.
So, what is the way forward?
Oh, the way forward is to understand that life in itself is enough and rejoice being in that state of life, in the state of movement. Thank God I'm moving. Dead bodies don't move.
Right.
In celebration, in singing, in cooking, in playing with children, looking after the elderly, not making money and shoving it in the banks and spending it on wars, giving loans to the industrialists to create more industry and more control and more blocks and houses and big roads. And then now China is building a Silk Route all the way to Europe. And then people feel very pleased. Oh, I spent so many $1 billion to buy gas and drive all the way through. And then what would happen? So you know the story of Shiv and Parvati and the son going around the parents.
Yeah.
And then he says, I've seen the world. See, that Shiv and Parvati is the image of Shiv and Shakti, the yang and the yin, the masculine and the feminine, the polar opposite in one. And that in oneness, if we travel in ourselves, then inside out, what will come outside would be a much more pleasant human being who's not going to eat bats and who's not going to make these bombs and chemicals and life, which is blocks and hell. So the idea is, the forward idea is to re-look, even stop, even when this lockdown finishes, don't open yourself. Look deep within, introspect, question. And this whole idea of education has to be questioned because it's a disaster. It did not work. Education worldwide has failed, and failed for sure. And those who doubt it, they need to get their brains checked.
Wonderful, Alokji, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's wrap this up here.
Thank you.
And,
thank you. Well, thank you for the people who have been watching us, tolerating us. Just listen to us and help us to find our true voice. Wait, Gunjan, I would like to also hear from you, because you're an artist and you've been working with motion graphics for so long. If you're working with motion graphics, that you digitally see things. So you're observant, You've been traveling, you've been meeting various gurus and mentors and scientists, and you've been going to the ghats, and you've been going to the mountains, so that you have an incredible journey yourself. And I'm fantastic working with you in Thailand, and then later on we went to Malaysia and we did these workshops. So I think we should not take new topics. We should just carry on working with the same topics till we have life. You cannot finish with education or life, but we've come to some clarity of our thought process.
This is the tip of the iceberg of the iceberg.
I guess so.
We're going to go deep.
Molecule, yeah, it's just
molecule.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Bye.
Thank you, Alok ji, and
bye.
Good to have you.